Watch out! There's some terrifying ancient creatures about. Well, nah, I'm just kidding, guys, because thankfully for us, they're all extinct. I mean, actually, I retract that. It's never a good thing to joyfully lament over a species that have sadly shifted from this mortal coil. But also, we should recognize the fact that without their sacrifice to the sands of time, in all likelihood, we wouldn't be here right now to do this video. Because, as some of you may know, these terrifying creatures of the ancient world would have made life pretty damn difficult for us, we humans. Giant boa constrictor snakes, giant crocodiles, giant sharks, giant squids, giant everything, really. Let's take a look. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube. Top 5 scary videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host, Jack Finches. As today, we choose to take a look at the top 5 scariest ancient creatures that we're glad are extinct. Roll the clip. For the curious amongst you, of course, that scene was from 2018's The Meg, and what better way to demonstrate the hubris of humanity in the face of a terrifying prehistoric creature than to make a terrible film about an equally terrible proposition. But whatever, guys, that's what B movies are all about, right? Well, it was a blockbuster, oh, whatever. And you came for some ancient creatures anyway, so it's ancient creatures that you'll get. Also, as a side note, please don't expect the Megalodon or the Titanoboa or just straight up dinosaurs, because you know that we're better than that. And if it's horror movies we're talking about, I'm pretty sure these following ancient creatures would make a far better premise. Kicking off at number 5, the HELICOPRION. And please forget about the Megalodon when it comes to some of the most bizarre and impossibly terrifying creatures that would have roamed the 7 seas of the ancient world, because the HELICOPRION is a literal buzzsaw of a shark. And when I say literal buzzsaw, I mean it. Have you ever heard of a tooth whirl? Well, no, because seemingly it was an evolutionary offshoot that didn't exactly catch on back in the day when life was figuring out a way. But at some point in time, this aquatic creature figured it could get by growing a circular saw out of its mouth. Back in 2011, a strange tooth whirl was discovered on the skull of a HELICOPRION in the Phosphoria site of Idaho that measured a staggering 18 inches in length. Now, it gave an explanation to an evolutionary curiosity that had existed since the late 1890s of a species of ancient shark that seemingly grew teeth in an incredibly bizarre pattern, attached to their lower jaw by a mass of cartilage. What's even more terrifying is that the HELICOPRION is believed to have created this teeth whirl in the pattern of a growth ring, as this shark aged, its new teeth would push the previous set back in an infinite whirl, and essentially the older the shark, the bigger the buzzsaw. The jaw would close, rotating the teeth backwards in the fashion of a circular saw. Now, thankfully for us, this species of shark existed over 290 million years ago, so there'll be no risk of us running into such a terrifying monstrosity anytime soon. But the fact that evolution caused this creature's jaw to try and become a literal maw of razor-sharp teeth like some horrifying Lovecraftian beast is nightmare fuel enough. Perhaps its closest relative is the goblin shark or the tiny spookfish and ghost sharks that have considerably shrunk down in size since their heyday. Presumably, we can only guess as to its feeding habits, but with the way its teeth were assembled, that's a pretty tall order for our imaginations. Oh, and also, did I mention that they were about 40 feet in length? Not today, HELICOPRION. No thank you. Swinging in at number 4, the DUNKLEOSTEUS. Alright, unfortunately we're going to have to stay in the ocean for a little while longer, because if we're talking subaquatic horror movies, then I think I may have the perfect candidate, and certainly one that hasn't been covered in horror cinema before. Yet anyway. Forget about Piranha 3D, forget about Deep Blue Sea, let me introduce you to the DUNKLEOSTEUS. Alright, okay, maybe on the surface they don't look that terrifying, especially compared to the HELICOPRION, but just hold that thought for a moment. Fish assemble in shoals, right? Swimming about in great big swarms under the sea, bright and colourful and most of them pretty unassuming, who generally make up the prey rather than the predator. Well, about 380 million years ago, things would have been a little bit different, especially if this guy was about. A giant armoured fish whose jaws possessed enough pressure to exert over 755 kilograms of pressure. Now imagine a whole swarm of them coming toward you. Also, it's important to note that there are over 10 different species of the DUNKLEOSTEUS, suggesting that they were in fact both numerous and diverse creatures, vastly populating the oceans of the ancient world. The largest of the species is the DUNKLEOSTEUS torelli, a fish that had a rounded snout and 2 razor-sharp plates that made up its beak of a jaw. Like other placoderms of the time, it had a 2-part, highly armoured exterior made from bone, and the reason that it possessed such a powerful beak, and another source for the nightmare fuel, is that it's also theorized these creatures cannibalized each other. Oh, and also, again, did I mention that the largest of these things grew up to 20 feet in length? It's a freaking fish. Really, the DUNKLEOSTEUS makes the piranha of today look like a goldfish. These things are the most metal thing that you could ever have possibly battered and fried and served alongside chips with mushy peas. Cannibals, scourge of the sea, razor-sharp beaks. No thank you. No thank you, no wonder we left the ocean. Next up at number 3, the MEGALANIA. Alright, now, some of you may have looked at this list and thought, dragons. I bet there's going to be some dragons on this list. But yeah, come on guys, we know that dragons aren't real. And I'm starting to string you along like that. I really am. Komodo dragons though, those things are very, very real. Just imagine a horror movie with a whole pit full of Komodo dragons slobbering around with vile poisonous spit frothing from their mouths, and whilst I'm still pretty damn shocked that Komodo dragons haven't featured in their own blockbuster modern horror film yet, although they've certainly been covered in B movies, forget about that for now. Sideline the Komodo dragon because their ancient ancestor is far, far more terrifying. Let me introduce you to the Megalania, the largest terrestrial lizard ever known to have existed, and one of the few ancient creatures on this list that would have been skittering across the earth alongside our ancient human ancestors. Yeah, you heard that right. This guy would have been a contender on the apex predatory pyramid, and given the fact that the Greek translation of this creature's name is Ancient Giant Butcher, yeah, competition. Now, given the fact that there is a lack of a complete skeleton of the Megalania, it's hard to establish its exact size, but the most conservative of estimations put this giant lizard at around 23 feet in length with a maximum weight of 620 kilos. Judging from its size alone, it would have fed upon mid to large animals, mostly giant marsupials such as the Diprotodon, as well as large birds and their chicks. Native to Australia, some scientists regard the Megalania as the only predator of the Australian Pleistocene megafauna, meaning that this thing would have dominated the landscape as the apex predator of the time, rivaled only by the quincana, a genus of extinct terrestrial crocodile. Oh yeah, and also as a varanid lizard, this thing was dripping with a highly venomous hemotoxin, and given the fact it is the largest venomous vertebrate ever known, and even more terrifying, the indigenous people of Australia would have been around at the time of the Megalania. Yeah, humans were kept awake at night by the thought of this terrifying lizard out in the bush. No thank you. Coming in at number 2, the hell pig. Alright, now whilst it may seem that by name alone this thing is terrifying enough, I've thought long and hard about what would possibly be the best premise for a horror movie ancient creature throughout the confines of this list. Certainly, the hell pig would strike fear just by its title, but bear with me because the implication behind this giant pig of the wild is going to take a little bit of our imagination for it to truly ignite the nightmare fuel. The Archaeotherium, which means ancient beast, isn't really a pig. In fact, whilst it certainly would visually resemble what are now wild warthogs, the hell pig is actually far closer to being a hippo or even a whale than it is the common swine. It is derived from a disputed genus, the Artiodactyls, which are an ancestral group that now makes up deer, sheep, camels and llamas, and whilst those guys certainly aren't ready to shovel the fear in our faces despite their best efforts, the hell pig was certainly willing and able. For one reason alone. Have you ever seen a hippo open its jaws? Do you know what damage can be wrought by a hippo opening and closing its mouth on a creature's head? Hippos are insane, and these guys, the hell pigs, were the halcyon purveyors of that same ancient terror, a frightening hybrid of warthog meets hippopotamus that roamed the insane wilderness in packs of hell pigs, hunting down prehistoric rhinos. Seriously guys, these hell pigs preyed on the ancestors of rhinos just for the hell of it. Also, because of the structural limitations of their bizarre hybrid maw, the hell pig would have had to have bisected its prey into chunks of flesh before gnawing on it and crunching it down into a mush like some strange giant hell pig truffle hunter. Hell pigs were crazy guys, and if you were scared of razorback, then just imagine a herd of these things coming for you. They wouldn't even give you the mercy of a quick death. It'd just be slow and full of hippo teeth. And finally, coming in at number 1 spot, HAASTS eagle. Because yes, when it comes to a creature of such power and terror that would have certainly feasted upon humans given the chance, in that regard, HAASTS eagle is one of the undisputed champions of the ancient world. Also, it just so happens to be the largest eagle ever known to have existed. The largest eagle ever. Do you know how efficient eagles are as predators? Yeah. Frighteningly so. They're the lord of the skies for a reason. Now picture them with a wingspan of nearly 10 feet. And you'll be ready to feel the same fear that the poor flightless moa bird felt before they were hunted to extinction. Have you ever heard of island gigantism? It's a biological phenomenon that occurs when the size of a predator suddenly blows up after being left isolated on an island to hunt all of the poor helpless prey that it so desires. Such is the case with HAASTS eagles, specifically in the South Island of New Zealand, presumably around the year 1200 or so AD. You see, the point where this entry earns its feathers is that for an unknown amount of time, HAASTS eagle feasted on the flightless moa bird of New Zealand to their heart's content. Eventually though, when the early Maori settlers arrived on the island around the year 1280, eventually in about 1400 AD, HAASTS eagle had hunted all of the moa to extinction. At this specific point in time when the HAASTS eagle were tragically slipping away from this planet and becoming extinct in their own right, they would literally eat children. These giant, swooping, legendary feathered and beaked predators would soar from the skies of New Zealand, attack and eat Maori children, even in some cases grown humans. Now, although these occurrences are only passed down through Maori legend, HAASTS eagle plays an integral role in their oral traditions. They refer to it as Puakai, the monster bird, a literal ancestor of the true raptor. The HAASTS eagle was so damn terrifying that it earned its own place in the mythos of Maori culture. Yeah, it's sad to see such a beautiful creature no longer with us, but holy moly, these birds would have torn us to shreds. Well, there we have it, guys, our list for the top 5 scariest ancient creatures we're glad are extinct. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree, have any more to add to this list? Then let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Before we depart from today's video though, let's first take a quick look at some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. First up, Meggie McGuire says, I love your jacket, Jack. I love your Meggie McGuire. See what I did there? Colin Gale says, you talk too much. Yeah, probably going to be a little bit difficult without the talking part, but alright, whatever. I guess I'll shut up then. Colin Gale. Bye. And on that note, unfortunately that's all we've got time for in today's video. Just stick around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video or just top 5 scary videos in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe button, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching top 5 scary videos, and until next time, you take it easy.